Good evening, welcome to another video here on this Esoteric Circle YouTube channel. I'm Pete Haskins, and it's a cold and wintry night out here in Wisconsin. It's windy and raining and thundering outside, so it's a good night to be inside. Wherever you're at on your spiritual journey, I hope you're well. But we're going to talk a little bit about trying to stay awake in these times of ours. This is indeed in a time of crisis in a lot of ways in our world and in a lot of lives. There's a lot of conflict, and I sense that today, and a lot of lives and a lot of people are struggling. And I want to talk about that tonight, and the reference to In Search of the Miraculous and just some of the teachings of esoteric Christianity. How do we get a grip when we feel like everything around us is chaos? So wherever you are at on your journey, welcome. I don't know if you can hear that rain, but it's raining hard outside. Goodness. This is awesome. Gurdjieff talks about sleeping and being asleep. This was written, in this talk that he was referring to, that Ouspensky's writing down, was done during the First World War. And there's so much similarities between what's happening now in the First World War, and we really can see the decline of our civilization beginning with the First World War. So much. That was such a stressful time on so many people. And the pandemic, the Spanish flu as it was called, began in 1918 actually, and went all the way through and decimated the world in the aftermath of World War I. And here we are in a state of constant conflict and a pandemic, and that pandemic has really done so much damage to the mental health of a lot of people, and I see that. So I want to talk a little bit about this staying awake. It talks about this fact that we are all living in a state of sleep. We are living in sleep, and he says this on page 143, the real world is hidden from him by the wall of imagination. He lives in sleep. He is asleep. What is called clear consciousness is sleep, and far more dangerous sleep than sleep at night in bed. Let us take some event in the life of humanity, for instance, war. There's a war going on at the present moment. What does it signify? It signifies that several millions of sleeping people are trying to destroy several millions of other sleeping people. They would not do this, of course, if they were to wake up. Everything that takes place is owing to this sleep. Both states of consciousness, sleep and the waking state, are equally subjective. Only by beginning to remember himself does a man really awaken, and then all surrounding life acquires for him a different aspect and a different meaning. He sees that it is the life of sleeping people, a life in sleep. All that men say, all that they do, they say and do in sleep, all this can have no value whatever. Only awakening and what leads to awakening has a value in reality. We're about ready to study Robin Amos's A Different Christianity, and in the introduction, Robin writes, yet the inner truth and its psychological components, which find their justification in the gospel passage that says, they that are whole have no need of the physician, from Mark 2:17, survives or persistently reemerges. This therapeutic view survived in medieval Europe in the attitude that treated Christ as the doctor of souls. It survives in Greece today in the mountain fastness where hermits hide. One Athos hermit once explained his role to me by saying that his work was like that of a doctor, but not a doctor for the body. Today, this attitude is re-emerging. Remember, this was written in about 1995. Today, this attitude is re-emerging as a growing movement that seeks to distinguish between inner and outer interpretation of Christian doctrine, and refers to the outer form as moralistic or sometimes legalistic. By this they mean a faith that judges, that asks things of us without giving us the means to achieve those things. And listen to this. The ancient inner tradition took a view opposite this. It gave people the means to be moral, then allowed the form of that morality to emerge naturally. It survives in the Orthodox Church, dispersed from its homelands into the West, custodian not only the empty monastery of St. Andrew on Mount Athos, but of many still active monasteries on the same peninsula, and of the true keys to the forgotten tradition that once were taught there. Truth it may have, but its resources and its capabilities were and still are generally swamped by lonely exiles who ask it to speak not primarily of God, but of some inexpressible motherland. You know, that's one of the things that we find here, is that when you get tired of the church and you get tired of all the dogma and the doctrine, you want something real. You want experience, and you want help now. You know, you want this now. You want to have the miraculous happen. You realize that you are broken. You realize that you're fractured. You realize that you are legion. And you realize that you need help, and you need it now. And you need the Spirit to come and heal you. You need a doctor. And I want to say this, that it's so easy to do what we're doing here with this esoteric journey, and to feel like we've got it, and to feel like we've already achieved something, that we're awake. You know, like Gurdjieff says, that we're already awake. And as soon as you say, hey, I got this, I know what, so-and-so's talking about, I understand this, I understand how to interpret this, I understand all this stuff, that very moment that you think you've got it, you don't have it, and you're back to sleep. And that's where I go back to the Orthodox church so much, and the early church fathers, rather, to be more specific, because there are many in the Orthodox church, priests alike, who don't know anything about this esotericism. They don't know anything about it. They don't know anything about this inner church. Most Protestant pastors don't know anything about it. They don't even know what questions to ask. And I realized early on that I was broken, and I was a fragmented person, and I changed over and over and over again in a given day. And I got tired of that. And I got tired of just going from mask to mask to mask. I was just a different person all the time. I needed a physician because I was asleep, and I needed someone to wake me up. And I needed someone like Charles Ashton to wake me up. As soon as you think you've got it, you just lost it. T.S. Eliot, the fantastic poet from St. Louis, Missouri, said that humility is the greatest and most difficult of Christian virtues. What do you think he meant by that? You know, it takes humility to continue to stay in that moment where you're constantly needing help, and you never think you have it. You never think you have all this stuff figured out. You never do. And you're always needing God. And that law of synergy we talked about in a few videos ago, of taking that step toward God, because God's already acted. You take that step, realizing your humility, realizing your frailty, realizing that you need God constantly, and that gets you closer to God. That's one of the reasons why this is such an important part of this esoteric Christianity, this journey that we're on, is to stay on this path that says, I need God. I need, in humility, I need God. I need the physician. A sick person is in need of a physician. You need this humility to say, I don't have this. And you're constantly saying, God, I need help. Right? You're constantly saying to God, please don't leave me. Please be here with me. And that supplication, that worship, that sense of utter frailty is such an important part of this. And within this age that we're living in, the chaos that we're living in, and if you feel stranded, if you feel confused, if you feel drained, if you feel restless, go to God in your meditation and your prayers. Go to God and call on the great physician, because that spirit is real. That spirit of Christ is here to heal you today of your brokenness. But you need to stay in that condition of humility and constantly say to God, I don't have this. Because as soon as you say, oh, I've got it, I'm healed, I got this, I understand all of it, you're broken. You're broken again. You're back to sleep, however you want to look at it. You need to stay in that condition. And this staying in that condition of humility and staying in that sense that you are broken and that you need God constantly and staying within that. That's what staying on the path is like. That's what staying on the ladder of ascent is like. That's what it is. Constantly. And guess what? We're all, even saints, they're all in danger of falling off that ladder. We're all in danger of going off into the woods and losing our path and losing our way on a cold, rainy night and not finding the camp again, not finding the fire, not finding our friends again. We're all in danger of losing that. And we have to stay on that path. What that looks like is humility. Staying within the framework of that humility. And that is a relationship with God that you nurture, that you must nurture and you must work at. Otherwise, all of this stuff with esotericism, all of it, especially the fourth way, a lot of arrogant people in the fourth way. So much stuff in the fourth way leaves people so arrogant because they think they have it, because it's all an intellectual joke. It's all just some little ego trip. None of this is about having it. It's all about saying, God, I need your help. I'm broken. I'm asleep. Help me. And you stay in that, and you stay in that, and you stay in that. And that's why your prayer life is so important. If you're restless, if you're tired, if you're confused, if you're drained, get back into your prayer life. Or, better yet, get into a prayer life. Maybe you never have. And dive deeply into this. Remember, prayer teaches prayer. You don't have to go read a book. You don't have to quote anybody. You don't have to know what source to go to and quote something. You don't need any of that. You don't need any of that. You are the source. God, the living God, is within you. You are that source. And call on that God in your brokenness and in humility to come and heal you. And in that source of knowledge, that higher knowledge that we really are after, will be given to you because you will be worthy of it. And you're not taking it and saying, this is mine, I got it. We in the West know how to intellectualize this. Don't fall for that trap. Get into this emotional relationship with God and dive into it. And the first place is, God, help me. Even in the 12 steps, it's the first step. My life is unmanageable. I don't have this. I don't even know if there's a God, but my life is unmanageable. I can't stay awake. I mean, have you ever been driving and you can't stay awake? And how difficult that is? How bizarre that is to be falling asleep and you can't wake? Do you know what that's like? I do. That's horrible. And that's how we are spiritually. And Christ comes as the physician, as the doctor of souls, and says to us, I can help you stay awake. That's what this is at. That's what this is all about. Blessings to you.